36 Update News YouTube channel. Earlier this month, Russia announced that it had given up on seizing the Ukrainian capital, Kyiv, and was withdrawing from Kyiv and Mykolaiv. In fact, with this announcement, Russia also admitted its failure in the first stage. Subsequently, the Russian Federation stated that it will focus on the Donbass region. At the same time, Russia withdrew its troops, besieging Kyiv, Chernobyl and Mykolaiv, to Belarus and the Western Military Zone. This situation was due to the inability to meet the needs on the war front, and the successful destruction of the Russian supply lines by the Ukrainian forces. However, some of the withdrawn troops have already begun to move towards the Ukrainian border. This meant that in the second phase an intense attack was planned in the Donbass, Kharkiv and Mariupol region, and the reports of the Ukrainian General Staff are in this direction. Unfortunately, these cities are again under intense Russian attack, and the Ukrainian armed forces and the International Legion are doing their best to defend the region and are still showing a strong resistance. On the other hand, Russia still has not used some of its advanced war machines and weapons, which we hope will not. One of these advanced war machines is the hypersonic missile carrier Russian MiG-31. In mid-March, Russia carried out 2 heavy bombardments with Kinzhal hypersonic missiles of MiG-31K fighter jets to break the psychological resistance of Ukraine and the world. This was undoubtedly the world's first use of hypersonic missiles on a battlefield, and Russia was putting on a show of strength in its own right. However, the resistance of the Ukrainian people was not shaken by this destructive force, and Ukraine continued to defend itself. But there is no guarantee that Russia will not use more advanced war machines in the second phase of the invasion of Ukraine, and it seems that there are preparations in this direction in the Russian Western Military District. Since last week, the Russian Air Force seems to be in serious preparation and preparing the most advanced warplanes for duty. Russia's preparations are not limited to warplanes. It seems that Russia has some preparations for civil aircraft as well. According to the Russian news agency, Russian President Vladimir Putin signed a law allowing them to illegally confiscate hundreds of Western-made planes worth €9.2 billion operated by Russian airlines. The bill would make it possible for Russian airlines to seize their leased planes and use them on domestic routes, while making it harder for foreign firms to take back their planes without the Russian government's approval. It rocked global leasing businesses just days before the deadline for them to seize $10 billion in jets as a result of Western sanctions following Russia's invasion of Ukraine on March 28. Russian airlines have about 780 leased jets, 515 of which are leased from abroad. Western aircraft manufacturers such as Airbus and Boeing have already cut off access to the spare parts Russian airlines need to maintain and fly their planes safely. In addition, Russia has difficulties in accessing many spare parts used in warplanes due to sanctions. Russia attempted to procure these parts used in aviation from China. No response yet. However, while Russia was making such an effort, it lost one of its most valuable warplanes. Now, after examining the details of the loss of the latest Russian MiG-31 jet, we will, in turn, consider in detail all of Russia's fighter jet helicopters that were accidentally or destroyed by Ukraine. A MiG-31 fighter jet crashed down in Leningrad, Russia, on Friday. The Western Military District said on Friday that a MiG-31 fighter jet crashed in Russia's Leningrad region and the crew managed to eject it. On April 8, a MiG-31 aircraft crashed in the Leningrad region during a planned training flight. The crew was laid off, the army told reporters. 3 Mi-8 helicopters belonging to search and rescue teams were dispatched to the scene. The plane crashed into a deserted place. There is no destruction on the ground. According to preliminary information, a technical malfunction may have caused the accident, the military district added. In the last 3 months, Russia lost 2 MiG-31 fighter jets and technical malfunction is shown as the reason. Surprisingly, the Russian Federation has had at least 5 fighter jet crashes in the last 5 months, all for technical reasons. The MiG-31 is a Soviet and Russian double supersonic high-altitude long-range fighter interceptor aircraft. It was designed by the Mikoyan Design Bureau as an upgrade to the MiG-25 from the 1970s. Modernized MiG-31 BM aircraft are already entering the service of the Russian Air Force. Previously, Russia had deployed MiG-31K Foxhound fighter jet armed with Kinzhal hypersonic ground attack missile in Kaliningrad along the Baltic coast. The crash of a MiG-31 fighter jet belonging to the Russian Air Force in the Novgorod region in January came as a serious shock to Russia. This was the first loss of MiG-31s. On January 29, the Russian Ministry of Defense said in a statement that the MiG-31 fighter crashed off the runway during takeoff in the Novgorod region and no one was injured. The fighter jet was split in two, the nose section and the rear section completely separated. The Ministry of Defense announced that the tragic loss of the MiG-31 fighter was the result of a technical malfunction. Images of the fighter jet's nose literally breaking off the rest of the fighter's fuselage, including the cockpit, are evidenced by crime scene photos shared by the Russian Defense Ministry. The night before the MiG-31 crashed, a Russian Mi-8 helicopter crashed, one of the crew was killed and two more were seriously injured. A similar accident occurred in the last weeks of January when a Russian Mi-24 helicopter, which was in the security team of Belarusian President Lukashenko, crashed. Also in February, a Su-35S fighter plane nearly crashed at the Russian airbase due to an unknown system malfunction, according to Russian military sources. In addition, in December 2021, a Russian Su-34 fighter plane crashed near the Saratov region on its way to the Ukrainian border, and the reason for this crash could not be found exactly. The Ministry of Defense of the Russian Federation does not explain much about the reason for the mysterious crashes of the advanced Russian fighters. While the Russian Air Force lost warplanes and helicopters as a result of both technical failure and possible pilot errors, it also lost many fighter jets and helicopters during the occupation of Ukraine. In addition to those shot down in February and March, Russia also lost planes in Ukraine in April. Russian Air Force February 24, 2022, Russian officials acknowledged the loss of a Su-25 in the Ukraine operation due to a pilot error. A Russian An-26 with registration number RF36074 crashed in Russia's Voronezh region, killing an undisclosed number of passengers. On February 25, Ukrainian forces attacked the Russian Air Force at Milarovo and destroyed at least one Russian Su-30SM on the ground with a missile salvo from Tochka. On March 2, a Russian Su-25SM with registration number RF91961 White 07 was shot down in Irpin, Ukraine. On March 4, two Russian Su-25SMs, registration number 1 RF93026, disappeared over Volnovakha, Ukraine. Images of the ground attack plane wreckage were posted on social media. On March 5, a Su-30SM from Naval Aviation was shot down in the Bashtanka area, Mykolaiv Oblast. The pilot was caught. The two-seat Su-34, registration number RF81879 Red 24, was shot down by Ukrainian forces at 11:30 a.m. near Chernihiv. Both pilots were ejected. Ukrainian forces captured the pilot, co-pilot died. A Russian Su-34 was destroyed near Vyhovtsy, Khmelnytsky Oblast. One of the pilots died. In the evening of March 6, a Su-34 was shot down by the Ukrainian Air Defense, crashed near Kharkiv, one of the pilots was captured. The aircraft was initially mistakenly identified as a Su-25, but the wreckage of the aircraft resembled a Su-34 with registration number RF95070. On March 10, a Su-25 with registration number RF91969 was shot down near Kiev. The pilot is dead. On March 13, a Russian Su-30 was shot down by the Ukrainian defense, the pilot Kozik Suryovich was captured. On March 14, a Russian Su-25 was damaged by enemy fire, possibly manpads, and was able to return to its base. Satellite images show the aftermath of Ukraine's attack on the Russian-occupied Kherson airport on March 15. An unknown number of Russian aircraft were destroyed and damaged, according to Planet Labs satellite images. However, some lost helicopters appear to have been destroyed before. On April 3, Ukrainian forces shot down a Su-35 near Kharkov, Izium, and captured its pilot. Serious losses in the Russian Air Force had a major impact.